You've probably heard that American kids are getting soft. The marshmallow generation, some people call them. Overstuffed and overindulged, they supposedly are incapable of hard work or response to challenge.
Yo, this is crazy because this is in the 60s. American kids were getting soft. You should see the kids nowadays. All right, let's get right into this. President Trump brings back the presidential fitness test. This, I think, is definitely needed. Let me play the story, then we're going to talk about it for a minute.
Presidential fitness test is back. Remember that? Late today, President Trump signing an executive order reinstating the National Fitness Assessment, a public school program started in the 1950s that asked students to perform a combination of push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, and running. Those with high enough fitness scores eligible to receive the Presidential Physical Fitness Award, you may remember. In 1985, that included running a 3:30 half mile for 8-year-old boys and just under a 4-minute half mile for girls.
Oh, I love it. I love it. If you grew up in the time of the 80s, 90s, physical fitness was important, and we had to run the mile, and there's certain fitness tests you had to do. You had to, climb the rope and all kind of things. I think this is great because childhood obesity is getting out of control. Kids are lazier now than they used to be. They don't play outside as much. We all know this. I've talked about it many times on this channel.
For more, Dr. Jordan Metzel joins us now. He's a primary sports medicine doctor at the Hospital for Special Surgery. Doctor, I like your headphones there. Thank you for joining Top Story tonight. So today, the White House and Health Secretary RFK recalling the way his uncle, President John F. Kennedy, advocated for youth fitness in the early 60s. You might know this phrase he coined, the soft American. In the early 60s, a primary concern was television. Now with phones and screens and video games. As a doctor, how concerned are you today about kids' fitness? Because you look at that video and that could seem, we understand the philosophy behind it, but it could also seem incredibly insensitive.
No. Before he even talks about it, it's not insensitive. Look. Childhood obesity, let's get into some figures. Childhood obesity, just over the past 20 years. We're going back only 20 years to 2005. Childhood obesity has increased from 14 to 19%, and severe obesity went from about 3.9% to about 6%. So nearly doubled. So the CDC is saying that about 20% of children and adolescents in the U.S. between 2017 and 2020 is now what? Almost 20%. 1 in 5 kids are obese and severely obese in many cases. Now, it's not insensitive because, look, it's about health. We're all different sizes. I'm not here to shame anybody or nothing like that. But kids being obese early is not a good thing. Back when I was younger, back in the 80s and 90s, of course you had kids that was overweight or fat, if you want to just say fat, but there wasn't as much obesity, and even the overweight kids were active.
It's absolutely right that American kids are overweight and inactive. We have about 25% of our population under the age of 18 is overweight.
Well, damn, I just said 19 to 20%. And he said 25. So not 1 in 5, 1 in 4 are overweight.
80% do not meet CDC recommended levels of activity for general fitness. I am all in with getting kids to move more. It's great for their health. Now, the question is whether a physical fitness test will inspire that. That's a different discussion, but definitely that video from JFK era is still true today, probably more so.
Yeah, I do want to ask you, though, what about the messaging, though, right? Because, the presidential physical fitness test was hard. I can remember it. I remember, I went to an all-boys school, and a handful of the kids would get it, even in our grade, and there was a lot of athletes in the grade. It's great to test yourself, right? Great to get in shape. But nowadays, we've learned so much about sort of mental health, right? And I'm not saying you have to be soft on kids or you have to be soft in general, but I do get concerned about maybe sending the wrong message to kids, especially when they're growing up, and weight can be an issue.
Oh, see, there he just tapped on the issue right there. The issue is the kids are soft. You know why? Because everybody's worried about kids' feelings, right? And that's not, at the end of the day, it's like being overweight very early in life isn't healthy, right? And of course, everybody's not going to be slim. You have different body styles. I get it. I'm not saying you're supposed to hurt kids' feelings, but we've gotten to a point now in America, we're so worried about our kids' emotions that we can't even tell them, like, listen, don't eat that, or get up and move. You've been sitting around too much. You got to get around and move. You got to be more active. it's not healthy to do this, it's not healthy to do that. We're so worried about kids and their emotions, and that's why kids have been soft. You know what I'm saying? And look, it's all about balance. But I tell my kids the truth. We're very big on, my wife and I are very big on making sure our kids are active. We tell them, like, listen, it's okay to have leisure, it's okay to chill sometimes, but laying around too much like a bum is not a good look. And I tell that to my kids all the time. So, you know, one of the things about building kids up to be confident, to be active, is to encourage it. You can't be worried about hurting their feelings. Children need to be encouraged to be active. They need to be encouraged to be healthy. Once you become an adult and you can do whatever you want to do, you can decide. And if you feel like you're not overweight, or you feel like you're healthy, whatever the case is, at some point you're going to be an adult. You can do what you want to do. I always tell my kids that there's always a point where no one can make you eat, you know, healthy. No one can make you exercise. No one can make you do anything. But for children, adolescents, minors should be encouraged. So worrying about their feelings is exactly what got us in this place. Not to mention the Takis and the Doritos and the whatever it is. We all ate all that stuff growing up. We ate all the reckless stuff growing up too. You know, when I was in junior high, I feel like I lived on Chico sticks and Fun Dip and Doritos and cookies, all that stuff. But we were so active that we burned all that stuff off.
For sure, we want to figure out how we can get everybody more active. I think one of the big problems we have is we have kind of a hyper-specialized upper echelon of very active kids that are the elite level soccer players, baseball players, a lot of resources for those kids. The bottom part of the iceberg, the people who are less active or inactive, we have a much bigger problem with that part of our population. So we want to figure out how we get those people active. I'm not certain whether the presidential physical fitness test is going to be, you know, the hill I want to put my flag on to say this, if we do this or don't do this, can make a difference. We definitely need to think about how we get our population more active, particularly our kids more active. One thing we definitely know is that active kids become active teens, active teens become active adults, and the number one factor in terms of kids staying active across their lifespan is enjoyment and community. So whatever that means in terms of what they do, whether or not they play NBA or Major League Baseball or NFL, just getting them active and getting them going is a key. And we need to keep thinking about ways to make sure we're doing that for everyone.
And so he's absolutely right. That was my whole point, is that, you know, if you encourage your kids to be active now, to be somewhat healthy now, it carries into teenage years, it carries into adulthood. You know what I'm saying? And this is so important. This is, you know, when we talk about healthcare, you know, that's why I always tie it into the healthcare conversation. We talk about healthcare in this country, about how healthcare is way too expensive and people are sicker than ever. People are getting diabetes early. People getting diabetes in their 30s and 40s. People are getting cancer much earlier. So all this is so important, and the problem is we're so worried about everybody's feelings, and we're not worried about their actual well-being.
I want to take you back to the great 1980s, and I don't know if I remember this moment or if I saw it, but President George H.W. Bush it's actually 1991, inviting Arnold Schwarzenegger to come out to sort of be the spokesperson, if you will, and that model of fitness. He invited him to the White House to promote what he called the Great American Workout. What would it take, do you think, today, with all the screens, all the apps, all the video games, to get kids excited about staying healthy?
Well, I think the downside is that people are less active because of those things, but there's also an opportunity, you know, thinking about the way we get, you know, why do some fitness brands succeed online and others have had a big problem? And we have a capacity to think about gamification. Look at Arnold there and all these kids, they're smiling. One thing we've learned is that either in-person or even virtual gamification increases compliance in any activity. That's why people are doing TikTok, because it's fun. So how do we think about combining physical activity and fun and community and fun? You know, we can make virtual communities in different ways than we can make them before. So it's not all bad news. We just have to be creative about how we do it, what kind of reward systems we set up. There's a lot of, I think, really exciting things that can be part of this discussion as well. I think the focus, though, needs to be the human body is the same body. It needs to move. It needs to be active. It needs to be well fed. And we need to lay off some of the junky foods, which is another part of the problem as well.
Put the game down. Get your ass off the couch. Do some push-ups. Let me know what you guys think about this crucial combo.